went back into chemo the first week of May, and I did 4 treatments, so that took me till July 12th. And after that chemo, we checked with CT scan, and everything was gone except for this one tumor in my liver that was a fairly, I thought it was a big size. It was about 7 or 8 centimeters, and so there was some sort of question as to, well, I said, well, okay, so what chemo do we try now? And my doctor said, well, no, we don't know if it is still cancer. It could be scar tissue. And so the only way to determine that would have been to have had a PET scan. So I was approved by the government to have a PET scan out of province, but I was declined for the PET scan from the receiving hospital because they felt that it was growing and that it was cancerous. There was no need to do the test. So, we had to live with that decision and decide what to do from there. In the meantime, I had started on a new medication that was just a pill and, shouldn't have any side effects, but I started having, in a week, I started having extreme pain, in my right hip and in my right side and my right ribs, and it was just this stabbing pain. It was just this it was just driving me nuts. And finally, after a month of that, I just couldn't take anymore, and I said, we gotta check into this. So did some tests, and an ultrasound showed that there's this tumor in my liver has now grown. It's now over 9 centimeters, and there's some more that have joined it. So there's one big one in the liver, and there's about 2 or 3 other little ones in the liver, and there's also looks like some lymph nodes or something with cancer in them in the abdomen. So it's now back into chemo again. So last week I was supposed to start chemo, but my blood pressure was too high. So just when you think you're going to get some relief, some other little crazy thing, has to throw itself into the mix to tangle me up. So right now we're trying to get my blood pressure under control so that I can get chemo to try and shrink these tumors in my liver and everywhere else, I guess. So I'm still in pain, and I think that's the hardest part. And my doctor said that could be part of the blood pressure thing too. That extreme pain can raise a person's blood pressure, and I believe it because just trying to live with this has been, like just to get myself out of the house today to go see my family doctor felt like a major production. Like every bump in the road hurts, and just to walk from the vehicle to the door, I have to stop and rest so much. I get short of breath, and my legs feel like rubber, and so it's just, in general, I feel really sick, and I can say that in, the over 10 years of living with this metastatic breast cancer, that I haven't ever felt this sick. I had chemo this spring was bad. I was quite ill with that. I was, just felt horrible and spent 1 week of every, 2 or 3 on the couch. But I knew it was going to get better. And this time, I guess I want to get going on the chemo so that we can nail it and slow it down. But it's just, it's depressing and it's upsetting because, I just can't get the pain under control.
How are you? This is the news as a breast cancer person with that diagnosis that you don't want to get, which is there's tumors again. How are you emotionally? You talked about the pain.
Yeah.
How are you faring? And ask Lisa, you're one of the toughest people I've ever met.
I don't know about that anymore. I don't think I'm as tough anymore as I used to think I was. Because the first time around with chemo, I felt tough. I felt positive. I was positive through it all until I was done the chemo, and then I went into depression, and that's when my mind was able to let me deal with the emotional bits. And I've always known that the cancer is likely going to progress and spread at some point, and I thought that I had accepted that. And what it turns out is that I understand it, but I don't accept it, because when I found out that the cancer was growing and I was going to have to go back into chemo, I was a flipping basket case. And I was sad and I was upset, but I think I was more angry than anything. And I don't know if I was angry because I felt that I'd wasted so much time thinking everything was okay, skipping through the daisies, or what. I know I was obviously mad at the cancer, and that helped me to fight it. But now, for a third time, I mean, my problem is that I know too much. I've lost too many friends to this disease, and I just, I kind of see what's happened to them along the way. And I just, when I had to go back into chemo earlier this year, I thought, okay, this could be the beginning of the end. And, there's still a lot of drugs that I haven't even tried, so by no means is this over, but this could be the beginning of the end. And, it's frustrating. This third time, it's so weird because I never thought I'd be asking for chemotherapy, but I really just want to get that stuff going through my veins so it can knock this stuff out, because for one, the pain is, it's really hard to live with. We're getting it under control slowly, but it's still, and in general, I feel sick, and I didn't feel sick before. I felt perfectly fine. So I guess now I'm seeing this side of it, where you don't feel good, and it sucks royally.
How are, I think the two people I know closest to you are Will, your husband, and your mom, Ruth.
Yeah.
How are they doing?
I think everybody in my family is doing okay so far. It was a real shock on all of us, obviously, earlier this year, to have to go back into chemo. This time around, Will and I suspected it just because of the pain that was involved. We actually thought that the cancer was spreading in my bones, just because my ribs were so sore and my hip was so sore and my back was sore. It's like the two of us, we were 100% positive that the bone scan was going to show that the cancer was spreading in the bones. Well, no, the bone scan showed everything's fine. In fact, some of it shrunk. Like, to us, that makes no sense whatsoever. But it just shows how everything in your body is connected and can affect each other. And, I guess who I worry about most are I've got lots of nieces and nephews, but I've only got 3 on my side. And they're the ones that I worry about because, and maybe I don't need to. It's an unusual situation because these are 3 girls who range in age from 10 years to 15, and they've only known Auntie Lisa with metastatic breast cancer. When you think about it, the oldest one was only 5 years old, and the youngest one was born a month before I was diagnosed. But they've only known me looking healthy. They haven't known me looking sick.
Right.
And so, they seem to be handling it wonderfully. They're intelligent girls, and they've done their own fundraising. I mean, last year we went out and shaved heads because one of them raised money, so, and they really are the ones that keep me going, because they're just, I consider them, they're like my children, in a way. And I think my mom and dad are doing okay, but it's, basically we're all just taking it one step, 1 minute at a time. I mean, that's the only way that I'm getting through this, is just literally 1 minute to the next. And if that's the way I got to do it, that's the way I got to do it.